What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fit, Healthy, and most of all, Happy podcast. I'm your coach and host, Josh, here with
his co-host and co-coach, KG, and I'm in the house.
We got another episode of Motivation Monday for you to get you fired up, answer some of your questions, share some of our favorite quotes, talk about where we're at in our personal fitness journey. We got a jam-packed episode planned as always, so sit back, relax, enjoy, and we're going to kick it off with our primary question. So the first question out of the mailbag is, hey, I want to lose fat, but I hate dieting. Every time I diet, I set myself up to fail. It never seems to work for me. Is it possible to lose fat without dieting? And if so, what would you recommend?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. And the first thing I wanted to talk about is what is the definition of dieting? So when you look it up online, it's simply to restrict oneself to small amounts or special kinds of food in order to lose weight. So where it gets really challenging is I do believe it's more of the word that holds a lot of people back. And what I mean by this is when you start to think that you're going on a diet, there's a lot of emotions that take place. For those of you who have failed numerous diets over and over again, when you try another one, you would negatively associate that word with the failure that you've had in the past. And I think where it gets really, really challenging is that that's all you think about is like, I can't have any fun. I have to restrict myself. I can't do anything at all. And it just sets you up for failure. So the way that we look at this entire journey is just a way of eating, right? To fix your nutrition, to eat better, to make different changes. And we don't exactly say we're going on a diet. We say, hey, we're going to eat better, we're going to eat more nutritious, and we're going to make changes. And I think that alone would be my first thing to help you if you are someone that really does struggle. Now, with that being said, there's a number of different things. If you wanted to just try to see change without drastically changing your calories and keeping track and doing a strict keto diet or whatever the case is. And the first thing would just be to increase your activity. If you start to move more, you start to run, you start to walk more, you start to lift more, that alone will make drastic changes over time. Now, when you combine that with just simply practicing mindful eating as well as controlling your portion sizes, these are the two greatest things that if you didn't want to touch a calorie tracking app, if you didn't want to weigh and do a ton of different things within your day, that alone will make a big difference. But overall, in a nutshell, in order to see change, you do have to start to make better nutritional choices. And whatever approach it is that you take, for us, we are big fans of logging, and our clients over time and overall have found that they don't feel restricted. They don't feel like they're doing this crazy intense diet because we can still enjoy fun foods because we have different goals set up where it's like more of a realistic approach. And so instead of them saying, hey, I have to do this crazy intense diet, they say, hey, it's just a lifestyle change and I'm here for it. And that's what makes a big change. But I know I kind of popped off on that, and I'm sure Josh has a lot to say as well.
Yeah, I loved Kyle's point about the association with dieting and being miserable. And I always come back to dieting. Like, I love the meme dieting. It starts with die. Like, you feel like you're dying when you're doing it. And that's why I much prefer the term cutting. And I like the concept of phases. So obviously, if we've lived our life, we've had extra desserts, we've went to events, vacations, lived our lives, it's very natural that we would gain some weight. We'd be in a surplus and we'd be a little bit heavier as a result of that. So instead, we can combat that by actively entering a cutting phase, where I like to think of it as cutting out the garbage, cutting out the extras, and being in that deficit for a time. And it's not indefinite, it's for a time. And once again, we use that 80-20 rule where, yes, I would cut out usually a lot of my luxuries because it'll take a lot of my calories, but it's not to say I don't have them at all. I'll just generally eat cleaner because it's easier to actually adhere and stick to my calories. But that doesn't mean I still can't enjoy my favorite food. So it's just that concept. And if you wanted to lose fat without actively entering a dieting phase or without actively logging your calories, can be done, but it is like a lot harder than it needs to be. I just prefer to drop my calories a bit, like Kyle said, log. I think that's the easier way to do it. If you're newer to the gym or you're someone who's relatively in shape, you have a really good physique, you're already at a great place, you could probably get away by just going on a few extra walks. So increasing some metric of cardio, being intentional with your food, aiming to have a little bit of a smaller portion, have less dessert, if you will, and like cut out those extra luxuries. Doing some of those basics or increasing training volume can actually cause you to lose fat and have success. I just don't like that it's not something that you can track and replicate consistently, because oftentimes you'll see those results for a week, you'll go back to those old patterns and those old behaviors, and you'll see all that weight come right back. And that's why I do prefer to say, okay, I'm going to be in this much of a deficit. I'm going to aim to lose a pound and a half a week, and that should take me in 5 weeks to 5 5 pounds, even at a pound a week, which isn't aggressive. So it's a lot easier to be very calculated with it in that regard. But even if you're just new to anything, like I always recommend to people, if you want to get into this, really limit liquid calories. So if you're drinking pops, if you're having a lot of alcoholic drinks, a lot of mixed drinks, a lot of fancy Starbucks drinks, like all these things are delicious, milkshakes, whatever, but they're delicious for a reason. And it's very easy to pack in calories without being intentional of it. So if you can work those away, really limit your portioning of desserts and try to have less sweets and less unhealthy snacks, like doing those basic changes alone will help a lot of people just lose fat immediately. Even trying a no drinking challenge, if you do drink a lot and you're getting a lot of your calories from alcohol, making that one small change as well can go a long way. And one thing I like to challenge all my clients with is we all know what we need to do. We just need to do it. So we all have different vices. I love a lot of food. Usually when I want to cut, I just cut down my portioning because I'd love to have like 2 dinners and then have 2 bigger portions at both dinners. Like if I had it my way, I like to eat a lot of food. Kyle loves sweets, and if he has sweets around, he will poke at them. So when he's cutting, he's like, I need to cut these out. Even the other day we had mochis, and he's like, oh, they're too tempting. Like I'm not going to keep them in the house. I'd rather just intentionally go out for an ice cream when I want it. So if you know yourself and you know your psychology and you're honest with yourself, it makes it a lot easier. And everyone has different things that they're better and worse with. And maybe for you, you don't eat all day and then you rush at the end of the day and you eat something you shouldn't. And there's ways you can get in front of that as well. So really identify like what's the thing you know you need to do if you want to lose fat, make that change. And if you want to guarantee it, definitely just start tracking your calories because it makes it very, very calculated.
And what I will say on that is like, I do believe tracking your calories, and some people would consider it dieting and whatnot, but I believe that taking that act of, spending time putting it into MyFitnessPal or whatever app you use actually helps you not have to diet intensely. And what I mean by this is there's some people out there who will have to restrict themselves a ton. They have to eat specific foods. They'll have to do all this stuff. And they're going to be the ones who actually end up suffering more, although they're not putting something into an app and taking those extra few minutes. So on one side, we have that person who's on keto, who's not really tracking anything, but they're feeling very restricted. They're set to a certain type of food. Their calories are very low because they can only eat a certain amount of stuff. And then on one end, the other person who is, yes, technically dieting. They're in a calorie deficit, but they have more food freedom. They can go out for an ice cream cone. They can still have more flexibility. And even when you look at the numbers, it's more freeing to know, hey, here's what I have left. Here's what I can budget. Here's what I can do. So the word dieting gets confusing, I guess you could say. But on that one side, flexible dieter, the person who's tracking, yes, they are essentially dieting, but it feels better. You feel more free. You feel like you have less food restriction. And that word is like very funky, as I was saying before. And I'm glad Josh brought up the cutting example, or even for me, sometimes the shredding example. Like if you, let's say, are trying to gain muscle and you just keep saying, I'm bulking, I'm bulking, I'm bulking, most people will just start eating a ton of food and just that's in their mind. Whereas if I say, hey, I'm entering a lean muscle gain phase, or, you go to an event and you say, hey, I'm actually doing an exciting shred for summer, it sounds really cool. But if you go and you say to someone, hey, I'm dieting again, and it just sounds like negative, and like a lot of people associate that, negativity towards that word. But overall, a couple takeaways if you're looking to just really exceed and excel and not have to worry day to day is just really make sure to increase your activity, control your portion sizes and practice mindful eating, prioritize protein and fiber within each meal, eat more healthy whole foods, minimally processed, and focus on improving your sleep and minimizing stress. And those 5 things alone will make such a big difference whether you touch an app or not, and whether you follow a strict specific type of eating. Those things alone make such a big difference.
Yeah, and if you want to maintain a muscular, relatively lean physique, one of the easiest things you can do, and one thing I tell a lot of different people, it's just a lot of people won't do it, is walk 8,000 plus steps a day, eat a gram of body weight of protein each day. And like if you do those 2 things and train 5 days a week, you'll be pretty elite in fitness. Like it sounds ridiculously basic, but if you can hit those 3 metrics, I assure you, you'll be blown away at how lean and how great of a physique you can maintain, because you have a great level of output. You'll be quite active if you're doing 8,000 steps. reps, you're lifting 5 times heavy. And then with the protein, you're going to be somewhat intentional with your diet if you're eating gram per body weight, because there is some challenge that comes around that. You'll be eating healthier foods that sate you more, and it'll fill in a lot of the gaps. And obviously you can get way more in the weeds, and some people could find a way to corrupt this, I'm certain. But in general, if you can do those 3 things, I think you'd be blown away with how impressive your physique can be. But now we're going to go ahead and jump into our quotes, and I'm going to start with mine because I really liked it and it's something I really believe in. So this quote was from Charles Miller, and it's: spend a handful of hours a day going fast. Crush a gym session, do a deep work on a project you care about, spend the rest of the day going slow. Take walks, read books, get a long dinner with friends. Either way, avoid the anxious middle where you never truly relax or move forward. And I just love this because I'm really big on, when I wake up in the morning, I like to go. Obviously, I like to take my time and look at my phone, go on a walk. I'll do different things like that. But I'm excited to walk, to get my journal, to get a healthy meal in, to bang out some work, to crush a workout. But I am a big believer, like finding your magic productive time. And for me, it's the morning. And this is a time where I can do so much. And then after that, if you work really hard, you really give it your all, it gives you a great opportunity to enjoy the small things, like meditating more if that's what you want to do, reading, going on more walks, having more lavish dinner with friends. And I think it's just a great example of like earning that time. It's not to say you always need to earn it, but I find it's really rewarding when you go fast, you bang things out, you get stuff done, you crush a workout in, you're getting your work done. Like, you feel really good, and then you really appreciate that slow time later. So I just thought this was an excellent way of saying it. So shout out to Charles Miller. Don't know who that is, but I like his quote.
Yeah, it's great. Even myself, I've started to do that a bit more. And, I used to kind of spend like an hour plus just like doing random things, which do leave you feeling good. But I'm like, for me, productive time is like, there's just nowadays I feel like I wake up and I have so much on my mind. I'm like, okay, I need to do this thing. And it's been great to incorporate that and then kind of slow down a bit later on. But yeah, everyone's so different. And, I think that was a great quote to think about and consider. And my quote for today is, your body is your temple. Treat it with respect and it will reward you with a lifetime of health and happiness. So it's a friendly reminder, right? Because I feel like it's easy to just not treat our bodies with respect as we just go upon life, whether it's like not strength training, maybe not moving our body as much. And these are just great reminders because I know all of my clients, they need these specific reminders. Like, and that's what we do is sometimes I'll be like, hey, I'll get them to keep track of their steps. I'm like, hey, we should be increasing this. Yes, we're doing our strength training. We got to get out for a walk. Or, sometimes your nutrition is on par and then we maybe need to make some different changes to make it even better. So I'll add them on my Fitness Pal and see where I can optimize and make sure there's, better food being consumed for long-term health. And, these are people who are actively trying to be better and are investing in themselves, right? Who are just looking to make those changes. But that's not considering the millions and millions of people who just like aren't going to the gym, that are just always eating fast food. And I definitely think there is a time and place to enjoy yourself, but a lot of the actions you take, you should be asking yourself, is this what's best for me? Is this what's best for my family, for the people that depend on me, for, just my overall longevity, right? And I think it's just something that a lot of people don't think about, right? Because day to day, you're just like, oh, give me the fastest, quickest drive-through food ever. And you're just like on the go. And it's like, it's easy to skip things that are, not good for you. And then your mental health isn't being prioritized. So yeah, like treat your body like a temple, like it deserves to be treated. And I know a lot of you, like if you're listening to this, you likely do, but even still, if there's like one small change you can make, there could be something that could absolutely change your life in the future. So that's my quote for today, and hopefully it resonated with you in some way or another.
Yeah, like once again, even just challenging yourself to be strong and to really face things head on, both in body and in mind, is so important. And I think it even takes strength. Like you could listen to a true crime podcast or this, you could listen to the news, or you could listen to this podcast. And like this, even you listen to this is like an investment in your knowledge base, and it's going to help inspire you. It's going to help motivate you. So I think having that thinking and saying, how can I continue to invest in myself, even physically? How can I eat the best food? How can I get a workout in? That's an investment in the bank. How can I take the time to actually do the healthier thing and get to bed and really look out for yourself? Because yeah, you only have one body, you want to take care of it, and find you're always reminded of that. Like even just with a little sickness, you're just like, I don't want to be sick, I just want to feel myself. And even with my shoulder, when you're hurt, you're like, oh, I just miss being able to use my arm normally for little things. So I think it's really important we don't wait till we're sick, injured, or we end up with tons of medical bills because we didn't take care of ourselves. It's really important you take pride and really make sure your physique is a priority. And one thing I actually really loved, I heard, I think Kobe was talking about, he said, like, each day, if you look yourself in the mirror, can you say that you're better that day than you were yesterday, or you're better because of what you did in that day? And if you do that every day for 5 years or 10 years, you're radically going to be an evolved version of yourself. You're going to get to whole new levels and heights because you're constantly striving to get better. And it's not that you need to do these massive changes. You just need to say, am I actively improving? Am I actively improving my physique? Am I improving my knowledge base? Am I training harder? Am I training smarter? So I think that quote really transforms into that really well. And on top of that, what's like a single habit, if you implemented consistently for the whole year, would transform your life the most? So an example, I like going on a daily morning walk. Because I do that, I'm getting about 2,500 extra steps each day that I wouldn't get had I not had that habit. So I'm really happy that I've created that habit, because doing that over a year, you got to consider how many steps that is. It's crazy, right? 2,500 times 365. It's quite significant. So it's funny how, as you can start to create good habits and perhaps replace some old ones, how beneficial that can be. Even if you're getting up earlier and you're getting a workout in, how many more workouts you'll have because of that. It'll provide a lot of really amazing opportunities. So even for you as a thought exercise, like, what's a habit you could implement for the rest of the year that you could be consistent with that could make a massive change?
You know, what's funny is, as Josh was reading that question, I was trying to think of what that habit would be for me. And I was 100% thinking of my daily walk as well. And especially the morning one. And what's cool about these specific habits that you may be thinking of is try to think of something that's going to change a lot of areas, right? It doesn't have to just be one area. But when I think of that walk, early sunshine gets the mind clear and ready to work as well. I find that when I do go on that walk, if I listen to a podcast or, I'm chatting or whatever, like I can just get, some better ideas for work. I just find it's, helpful in that area. And then obviously the physical component as well. So I think there's the mental, the physical component. So that's awesome. For some, it might be pre-logging. Like, we've had clients as well who say that when they put their nutrition into MyFitnessPal, or the app that you use, the night before, the morning of, that alone has saved them thousands of calories in the future, and also helped them with pounds and pounds of fat loss because they're more planned out, because they're more diligent. So like that alone every single day for the rest of time or for the next few years will dramatically compound. And I love that question. After this, I'm going to spend some time thinking about what else I can do, whether it's getting back to more meditation that I've been neglecting a little bit of, or maybe even some more journaling. I think that's great. So definitely think about that. And for me, it's all about commitment. And it's also about, I'm trying to think of, like, there's a lot of times where you may have some naysayers on your journey. And this can come in so many different ways, but it's funny because Josh found a YouTube video that I filmed probably about 10 years ago or so. I was in college and it was titled "The Day in the Life of a Ball Hockey Champion." He sent it to me yesterday. I was cringing. I was like, man, I can't believe I did this. Like, this is so awkward. Like, I don't usually get uncomfortable with these things that I've like filmed in the past, but I'm like, this is really, really weird. But it just, as I spent some time reflecting, I'm like, man, that's how we got to where we're at. It's like all of those uncomfortable times. It's all of those commitment times where I'm like, I don't want to do this, or this is uncomfortable. Even back when I first filmed my first few YouTube videos, I remember I would get a little bit of like, some friends making fun of me, right? It would just be like, I would be very uncomfortable. I remember just like licking my lips kind of like weirdly and just getting so awkward. And I'm like, you know what? Who cares? And I just kept going. And I can relate this to the fitness journey probably for a lot of you. Like, if you're starting to try to be healthier and eat better, and you're going to the gym and there's people like, really? Like, you're going to skip out on this for the gym? So just keep going, stay on your own path, do what's best for you. Don't worry about, what others are saying. And I promise you'll feel a lot better from it.
Incredibly well said. And now we're going to go ahead and jump into our client shoutouts. So we like to share a client in our program. Obviously, we're online fitness coaches who is crushing it and just seeing absolutely phenomenal results. And we like to share the big takeaways they have that they've shared with us that have really been game changers. So hopefully you can implement them and create change in your journey as well. So who do we have this week?
Yeah, so this week we actually have Spencer, and he is over 20 pounds down, over 4 inches off the waist. And you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, and now of course Spotify, which is awesome, his transformation, as well as some of the tips that has helped him throughout his journey. And the biggest thing, honestly, like, there's a lot, but obviously just full commitment and just having the right game plan. I think a lot of times people will have one or the other, right? So they'll like fully commit on their journey, but they don't have the right game plan, or they have the right game plan and they don't fully commit. And that's where I think those two things just need to be in order and just have to take place in order for you to see change. So we're so proud of Spencer. He's absolutely shredded. And the best part is when we get someone to where they want to be, our goal and what we do is we maintain that. We maintain that and we get better. You'll see a lot of other coaches post their 90-day transformations or whatever it is, and you don't really see afterwards what's gone on. And that's the sad truth of the fitness industry sometimes. But, our goal is to properly get you to a point where you can reverse diet afterwards, which is a technical term we'll save for another episode. We bring your calories back up at a very consistent rate. We check in with you consistently, and we just keep holding you accountable. And I know so many people who need that accountability. They need that game plan. We're actually doing something pretty crazy right now. For those of you who are looking to start getting success and keep it, and especially for summer, now is the perfect time, especially because we are going to be running a May shred challenge. So this is actually early access. So anybody who messages right now will get a discounted rate, and this will be only for a few select people. Haven't decided on the number, but it'll be anywhere between 3 and 5 people. And all you have to do is message us with the keyword early access to our Instagram at ColossusFit, ColossusUSFIT. But we're planning it out right now. We're gonna have tons of prizes. It's going to be an amazing challenge. And if you're ready to invest in yourself and you're going to actually send that message, we want to reward you because you're an action taker. You deserve to feel your best. I can't wait to change your life, and I'll personally work with you one-on-one to get you the results you deserve, and I can't wait to help you feel your absolute best for summer, for whatever trip you have coming up, cottage weekend. Now is the time to dial in, and I'm excited to help you change your life.
Yeah, this is going to be our biggest challenge yet. I'm so pumped for it personally. I got it all mapped out in my schedule, and I'm ready just to shred alongside you, which will be great. So if you want to be shredded for summer, this is going to be the way to do it. I think May is perfect. We've typically done it a little bit later, like we've done June and July in the past, but we put our heads together and we find May is like when it starts to heat up and get warm, and then you can really enjoy those shreds for peak beach season in June and July. So yeah, if you want the early access opportunity for the Summer Shred Challenge, definitely hit us up with that. We look forward to shredding together. But now we're going to jump into our second question out of the mailbag, and that is, how do you deal with and prevent DOMS? And if you don't know what DOMS are, they're delayed onset muscle soreness, which is just a fancy way of saying being sore from lifting weights.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I feel like a lot of people go through this, and I'm going to have to say and I like to start with like an unconventional tip of something, a little bit out of the ordinary. And my first thing is just to never skip. And what I mean by this is like, if I were to be on a routine and then just like consistently skip my leg day, and then just try to get back to it, I will be so sore for days. I've been there. It's not fun. So a lot of times if I'm trying to get that motivation, I'm like, all right, I don't want to have to go through this feeling again because it's not fun. So that's a bit of a unique, different tip. Not for everyone, but I think it's something to consider. Now, another thing is like, it's actually what you're doing with your routine. And you want to make sure it's like you're gradually increasing load over time, the weight that you're lifting. If you just are, back squatting and you're getting back into it and you're doing 225 for reps and you just are feeling fantastic next time and you're like, you know what, haven't done 3 plates in a while, which is 315. Let's bump it up. You will be ridiculously sore. So our goal is to just slowly make those changes, not to just do these drastic jumps. Now, where it gets tough is there's nothing wrong with soreness, right? A lot of people will be kind of upset about it. I've been there. I'm like, man, I can't even walk. Like, I can't raise my arms up. But overall, a lot of it comes down to like what you're doing within your routine. Now, I know the main question, and a lot of people are thinking like, what can I do outside of the routine, like day to day? Like, what can I do to prevent that? Now, it's been proven that protein helps with recovery. So making sure that you're having adequate nutrition, that's going to help you a ton. Something I'm a really big fan of, and it's actually not static stretching. I know some people praise that like crazy, but it's actually deep tissue work. So whether you get a massage, whether you use a massage gun, so I'm going to start from like the most expensive to the cheapest, but it would be a massage gun, and then a foam roller, and then a lacrosse ball would be probably my first choice because, it's great at just breaking down those, that scar tissue and just helping you feel less sore. And then the last thing would just be active recovery. So it has been proven, I don't know the exact percentage of recovery, but I would say 5 to 10 minutes of like a slow walk or a bike cool down or just something like chill to kind of get your heart rate down and get you to help. It does help you recover. But the truth is there's nothing magic. There's no pills. There's nothing that can just be like, hey, get rid of soreness. Soreness. And over time, I've just started to get used to it and just deal with it. But I find that the more I've been consistent with my routine and been on a really good program and stayed consistent with all that, I've been sore here and there, but it's like nothing drastic and nothing that will affect my future workouts. But yeah, that's my tip, and hopefully that helps you in some way or another.
Yeah, and there's been some cool new science about cold therapy after lifting. So if you like took a really cold shower after lifting, has been proven to help a lot with muscle soreness and to actually cause less of it. The only problem is it might come at some degree of your results, nothing significant. And I think if you're not a competing bodybuilder, it might be worth the trade-off if you can bear the cold of a cold shower or cold tub. If you have access to that, I know not as many people would, but that is something you could explore, especially if you had a really, really tough workout. Or you can even try icing. There's different things you can do to get in front of it before it's like so bad that it makes you miserable. Once again, the hesitancy I've seen from that is that it can limit some of your ability to actually grow your muscle. Once again, I think this is really in the weeds. Like I would have no problem having a cold shower myself, and I obviously want to optimize for muscle. But I do think this is unique new science that's really cool. That's kind of at the forefront that I wanted to share. But past that, I'd say the biggest thing is just going through it. Like Kyle said, obviously I wasn't lifting at my capacity after I dislocated my shoulder for a week, 2 weeks. Like I wasn't really lifting anything serious. So I started to use real weights again that weren't 5 pounds. Like it was crazy how back my sore got, and it sucked. It was brutal. Thankfully I kept training legs throughout. That's the one thing I could trade. So I didn't have to deal with the crazy leg soreness, but you just got to go through it, and then your body will acclimate and adapt quite quick. Even when you're new to the gym, if you just go through it for a week or 2 weeks, kind of sucks, but then your body is just like so resilient, which is really, really cool. But outside of that, I do like to optimize for that recovery. So obviously getting really good sleep, eating really great nutrition, hydrating, like doing all these things on the back end that will minimize it to a degree. Obviously, there's only so much you can do. Paired with all of Kyle's tips, I think is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and even an example, just let's say leg day. That's because that's the one that I think really hurts people, and it's not fun because your legs you'll notice the most. Like you're taking tens of thousands of steps sometimes, and you're just like, oh, every step it hurts. But like for us, we've been belt squatting, which has been great. We've been doing tons of leg volume 2 times a week, which is great. When we go back into the other gym that we're going to and I get back to back squatting, it's guaranteed that I will experience soreness, even though I've been destroying my legs here. It's a different movement. It's something I'm not used to. So even though I can still do 315 comfortably, I'm probably not just going to jump right to it because I don't enjoy soreness too much. I don't mind it, but I'm not going to just try to make myself sore for the next week for no reason. So I'm going to probably do 225, get back to it, get some reps going, get the movement going, and then slowly increase over time. And for me, I'm more into just a lifestyle, right? I'm not trying to get something super quick. I'm not trying to injure myself. And that's like an example of like when you switch up a movement, when you do something different, that's what usually does lead to soreness as well. So you have to kind of consider, and I think a lot of people will do really random things, right? So let's say one day you're like, I'm going to do this cool chest press or chest fly machine. You're going to probably get sore from that, and you're just kind of going all over the place with different things. So just something to consider, like that is a big contributor to soreness as well, as just switching up the movements consistently.
And last but not least, for our third question, we have, I'm quite health conscious, and I find sometimes I feel like I'm missing out on experiences with others. How would you work around the feeling that you're missing out?
So really good question. And I know exactly, like I'll clarify, I know exactly who asked this. And I think a lot of it is just coming down to like sweets and like different types of foods that you may want to try. Like if you have a friend group, then they do different things that, you know, you can't fit in or you don't want, you maybe want, but you're not going to have. And I experience this, especially when I am in my shred phase. Notice how I didn't say diet phase, but you know, it's tough because I am someone who I want everything, right? Like I actually do have FOMO a lot of times if I'm like, man, there's a specific hockey game someone's at, I really wish I was there. And I'm like, I want to be there. And so for someone who does get that in other ways, like nutritionally I can because I want to enjoy experiences. But there's a few things that help me out because I'm going to give you some examples. Like there's been numerous times I've wanted donuts and cookies and different things that others, guests would have as they visit us here in Florida. And I've wanted to just go over my calories. I've wanted to just kind of give up and just, you know, especially when willpower is drained and it's 9 p.m. or whatever the case is. But I always tell myself like it'll always be there. Now, it won't always be there if you're on a trip and you're somewhere and it's like a unique food that you'll never be able to get. But for the most part, like let's just say cookies, there's a cool cookie shop here and, you know, it's been just everyone raves about it. It's like 4.9 stars with 6,000 reviews, whatever. I've got it once, and I just think, hey, when I go back home or when I'm not doing my shredding phase, like it'll always be there. So that's one thing I try to remind myself of. The other thing is just like I've experienced a lot of different things in my life. So pizza, like as much as I'd love pizza every day, I look back, I'm like, I've had pizza 7 million, not 7 million, but tons of times. Like it's pretty good. I don't need it. If I do need it, we'll find a macro friendly one and we'll make it fit. And so I just try to remind myself that I'm like, hey, I've had a million ice cream cones, like, that type of stuff. And so that alone helps me a lot personally. And then I also just use like the 3-bite rule. So oftentimes when you do something that's like, let's just say, I'm going to say a 700 calorie donut, after 2 to 3 bites, it'll just not really be worth it. Like for the most part, you have like the first 50 calories of that donut. The rest is just like, okay, you're not getting as much value. It's not as exciting. I don't know the exact metric of that, but I know that is 100% true. And it's been, tested as well, but it's just something I'm like, you know what? It's totally fine. Like you kind of just push through, and it's like, yeah, there's been so many times I've like regretted something because I'm like, oh, well, I just had a certain amount of calories, but then like those first 2 or 3 bites, if I got from someone else, or if I just like, experienced, I'm like, it's way better. And at a certain point, the value isn't as much there. So yeah, that's something I wanted to share. And then the last thing is just like, going forward, if something does really offer value, if you feel like you're missing out, you can ask yourself, like, how can I fit it in going forward, right? So the example of the ice cream cone at the hockey arena, it was kind of worth it. It was a little expensive, and it was a cool experience, and I fit it in. But I felt like I was having FOMO because, every time I would see not millions, but thousands of people having it. Our friends got it one time, but I was like, man, it's just going to ruin my, my shred phase. So I planned it out the next time. I made a fit. I enjoyed it. It was totally cool. And that's the beauty of flexible dieting and just a specific type of eating, is that you can work around it if it offers value to you. But that's my last one, and I know it popped off on that specific question.
Yeah, all great responses and tricks. And my biggest thing is to still participate in it so you don't miss out. And I'm not saying even to eat, but like it's easy to tag along with friends and say, hey, like I'm not interested in drinking right now, but I'll grab a Diet Coke and I'd love to spend time with you guys. Or, hey, I'm down to try this cookie, and you can save the calories for it and fully enjoy it without any guilt. Or you could have half and bring half home to your partner. Like there's so many ways. And I think people will have this issue where they'll only commit to their fitness when they're all in. They're not going to dinner with friends. They're not going to any events. And they're just like a hermit at home who's miserable, only eating healthy food. And like that isn't realistic either, because at that point, you're going to be miserable and you're going to associate misery with dieting and looking good and start to say, okay, well, it's one or the other. Either I go off the rails, I do anything I want, I live my life, I'm happy and I'm unfit, or it's the other. So instead, the more you can kind of mend those worlds and find that balance and say, is this something I really want? And often I'm not a big sweets person. So there's been times everyone's got that cookie and I've been like, I'm not interested. And I felt no ways, because it's like a $8 cookie, which is ridiculous. And it's like 600 calories. And I'd be like, I'm actually happy I didn't eat it, but I'd be like, I'll drive you and I'll come get it, whatever. I don't mind. So you got to find what you want. Then there was a time I wanted that cookie, and you can fit it in and enjoy it, and it's no problem. Kyle was excited for the ice cream. It gave him something to look forward to. So I think too, it's just easy to see all these fun things, pizza, ice cream, cookies, whatever it is, and just say, oh, that's going to make me feel good. Because in your mind, that's what you think of. But to Kyle's point, the first few bites will taste the same as the next 30. So I think eating a reasonable portion, enjoying things, fitting them in, there's absolutely nothing wrong with having a little bit of something. If you have a sweet tooth and you can fit it in, you can utilize different tools we've shared on this podcast. So you can have your cake and eat it too, as the expression goes. It just comes from a balance of learning yourself. And maybe you mess up one day, it's an opportunity to learn and improve. But what's cool is you can actually learn to make fitness, nutrition be more part of your life, so that you don't have to do these massive cycles of needing to cut off 20 pounds of fat, because you can stay relatively lean and have this balance and reverse diet and have a maintenance that is quite high after a diet, to where you can easily enjoy things that even are a little bit more excessive. So all great points there, and a really great episode. And we want to thank you for tuning in today. If you want to join us for early access for summer shredding, just hit us up on Instagram with the keyword early access, and we'll know you're ready to get shredded for summer at a special early access deal. But we want to thank you for tuning in today. If you love this episode and you thought it was great, let us know. Comment down below on Spotify or YouTube. We'd love to hear from you. Share it with a friend, and we'll see you in the next episode. Peace out.